So for step 17, you can see that they're showing the plastic bearings, but we're replacing them with ball bearings. So I'm not going to do the greasing that they're suggesting, because with this we don't really need to. So we're going to put in the ball bearing, get it in there, push, there we go, it's down there. Grab one of the wheel axles, stick it in, and there's part of it. So that's one done. So it's pretty easy this step. Same thing again, go to the inside, push that in there, got it in, and put the axle inside. And voila, step 17 complete. So we'll move on to step 18 now, which is attaching those front uprights. So I'm just going to grab all the pieces that we need and the screws, and I'll come back. Okay, so for step 18, attaching the front uprights, there's actually a lot of finicky parts with this. So you can see these are all of the bushings, and then you've got your drive gearbox joints and the screws. And you can see that we're going to need to attach this onto the front uprights, and then you can see the little guy is going to go and fit inside part of that on the lower arms, and we'll do the same on the other side. And then of course we've got to put the drive shafts in. Now in this case, yes, they are going to be greased. Not there, because that's going into a ball bearing, but I'm definitely going to grease up the two sides, because that's going to be helpful in just creating less wear. Because they're just fitting into each side of the drive cup. So it needs something for sure. I'm just not going to put the grease here, because that's going into a ball bearing. So I think we'll set this up and start putting this together. So let's start with this side. So first of all, we've got the gearbox joint, which is going to go into the gearbox. So that's there. Then you can see that we've got to have this part here, which is this guy right here. That's going to fit into the top, into where that hole was. So in some ways we more or less have to do this all at once. So we're going to grease up the drive shafts. There's one inside, let's do the other. Then we're more or less going to grab all the pieces at once to kind of put this together. So I'm first going to do the top. So there's that one. We're going to take this one, the gearbox joint. We're going to put it inside the gearbox. We're then going to grab the other part, stick that in there, and stick that end in there. And then that's obviously going to go into the lower hole. That one's going to go into the upper hole. So once you've got it into the upper hole, we grab this part here, stick that on top, and then take one of the hex screws and screw it in. So initially I'm just going to get it enough that it's in, and then on the bottom side we can see that this part here is going to go on the underneath, and then it will fit into the hole. Whoops. Into the hole, and then on the back side you can see that this screw, you can see, is going to fit onto the little plastic washer, more or less, and then go up and into that other side. So we're going to be able to stick that in there and do the same thing. Now, I'm going to screw the rest of it down off camera, but essentially you can see that it's in place. It's just a little bit awkward with the camera in there. So I'm going to screw both ends in nice and tight, and then we'll check it out. So there is the front upright complete. The screws are in, everything moves nice and free, and I've done the other side already. So we've got both of those complete. So there is the finished step 18. So we can now move on to step 19, which is starting to work on the rear uprights. So just like step 17, this is pretty simple in that sense. If we grab that piece right there, we're gonna put a bearing into there, snap it in place, take one of the axles, put it in, and there you go. Next one, grab the other piece, grab a bearing, stick it in there, push it tight, grab the other wheel axle, put it in place, and there you go. So that is step 19. If we were using the plastic bushings, we would grease it as it suggests, but as we are using the ball bearings, we won't be doing that. So we can now move on to step 20, which is attaching the rear uprights. So for step 20, it's a slightly different process to when we attach the front uprights, but at the same time, pretty much the same. So we're going to grease up the axles. There's one side, grease up the other. Okay, and we're going to take the gearbox joint, stick the gearbox joint into the gearbox. That's in. Then we're going to take one of these, and you have to note direction, so the longer end is facing down. Stick one in, stick the other side in, and then align it with for the screws, and one screw is going to go into this side, and one screw is going to go at the bottom end and through. There we go. So essentially these two now have to be screwed in all the way, and then we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So I'll just go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back and take a look. It'll be easier off camera, and it's pretty self-explanatory and fairly simple for both sides. So I'll just screw these in all the way, and we'll come back. Okay, so the screws are now fully in on both sides, and you can see we've got a bit of travel. The shocks will help with that, but there actually isn't that much travel even without the shocks. So I don't know, I'm curious. The front definitely has more, but we'll see. So we will now move on to step 21.